Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am Coach Les, and I am here with Miss Sujata in Singapore, the author of Against All Odds. And here is the book and the title, No Retakes, No Manuals, Real Life Lessons. Sujata has accumulated a wealth of experiences during her life, leading to insights and knowledge that cannot be coached or taught in a class. She's a mother, a wife, a journalist, a consultant, an activist, a leader, businesswoman domestically, internationally, and a podcaster. In sharing her story, Sujata strives to provide readers of all backgrounds in any part of the world with real-life examples on how to deal with the unpredictable nature of everyday life. And Sujata and I have teamed up. I am Coach Les. I've been a business coach and a life coach combined. I was with a personal training and development company starting in 2002. So I've been coaching for 20 years. Prior to that, I was in, and actually during some of that time, I was in the wine and liquor business for 23 years. And I have been in the restaurant business in the evenings, as well as working consultant-wise with the restaurant business and hotels and catering since I was 12 years old. And I am 58, so 46 years, and absolutely love it. It's a huge passion of mine. And so tonight we are talking about customer service extremes, both positive and negative. And yesterday, on Wednesday, we talked about customer service nightmares, and that was a ton of fun. You can go back and listen to the replays. Last night, we talked about some training tips, and we came up with 14 proven and easy tips for training customer service staff. I'd love to share those with you as we start to prepare for the conversation going into this evening about some extreme negatives and extreme positives that we may have experienced or that we know that we can create. And what does that look like? So that's the exciting part for tonight. So for those of you that are listening on replays or listening on Facebook or LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter, I suggest you get a notebook. And if you're in the service industry, take a few notes, because I know just from who's on stage at this point that we are going to have a phenomenal amount of brilliant ideas on how to level up the game, how to deal with some of the horrendous nightmares that exist in the restaurant business. So get ready, and I'm going to share with you these proven easy tips for training customer service staff. If someone, we're also on Clubhouse. Here we've got 6 people up on stage, a couple people in the speaker lounge, and 3 people in the audience. And you are more than welcome, all of you, to come up on stage and join us on stage. Clubhouse, by the way, is a social media app where it's a little bit like a podcast, and you can come up on stage and have a conversation with the people that are, quote unquote, moderating and leading the conversation. And I welcome those of you that are watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. If you have questions, please put them in the comments, and we will track them down and get you some answers. And proven and easy tips for training customer service staff. There are 14 of them. Here I go. First, define good customer service. Create the vision and mission for whatever business you're in, whether it's restaurant, a cleaning company, whether it's a financial market company or a legal office, whatever it is. Define customer service. Get everybody on the same page. Train the employees to listen. Good evening, Fabian. Teach employees about phone etiquette. You know, we have these smartphones, and yet people still answer the phone. Yeah. You call a business and they answer the phone. Yeah. It's like, okay, first of all, did I call a personal home or did I call a business? So if you're from a business standpoint, learning some phone etiquette is very important. Number 4, share relevant resources. So who were training resources, opportunity resources, competitor resources, so that your employees get smart in the world of where they're at. 5, hold lunch and learns. Train your staff. Train them. As I said yesterday, my favorite training experience was working for a company called Parasoleil here in the Twin Cities. They opened a restaurant called Filio, and I remember 2 weeks of training before we opened, and it was unbelievable. We tried every item on the menu. We had to pass with 90% on a test on what was on the menu and the ingredients in every item, because there were some unique items, especially unique for Minnesota, where it's Scandinavian food, which is a little blasé sometimes. And here we were with this American bistro with angel hair pasta, capellini, margarita pizza, calzone, and this was a first time for some of these items in the Twin Cities. So the training was super powerful. Number 6, boost onboarding efforts. Part of that training. 7, keep team members informed. Do whatever you need to do. Email, Slack channels, team meetings, the old-fashioned chalkboards, dry erase boards, bulletin boards. Make sure people are aware of what's going on. I mean, I heard a story today. Oh my goodness. A person got fired over the fact that the information hadn't been shared amongst the employees. And it was a simple misunderstanding. Oh, could have been so easily avoided. Maintain an internal knowledge database. Guess what? That's a fancy way for saying, hey, let's have a suggestion box. Very simple, very, very powerful. Patience. Oh my goodness gracious. Patience with staff, patience with owners, patience with managers, patience with clients, patience with vendors. Number 10, access for handicapped, impaired persons. Somebody said that last night. You know, we live in an age and a society where our goal is to support people that are not always supported. So be powerfully connected. Make sure you're ADA compliant. Go above and beyond. Don't just skim the edges because it's cheaper. Inclusion, diversity. make your employees feel loved. Number 13, courtesy, competence, and civility, and make sure that's present. And lastly, empathy for clients and the service staff. So there we are. There is our update from yesterday and the day before. And now I want to share the extreme that happened to me in the restaurant business here in the Twin Cities at one of the fine dining restaurants. I'm sure there are some of you in here that have been to the restaurants where they have piano player, they may have musicians. This restaurant had a piano player. He was a phenomenal piano player. And it was a formal dining room. And the general manager was a lady who was well known as not being a very nice person. She was very strict, a little bit rude sometimes, definitely overstepped the boundaries that exist. Like today, I don't think she would have made it in the world of human resources today. And this was back in the, over 20 years ago, back in the late 90s. Pardon me. And one day she was having a foul evening, and which happened quite frequently. And she came up to the piano player and she tore into him for some reason. And he finally, he stood up from the piano, walked over to the hostess stand, and she looked at him and said, "What are you doing? Get back to your piano," and continue playing. And he ignored her. And he had dialed security on the phone and said, "Security, I need you upstairs in this is," and he said his name. "I'm sure you've been made aware of who I am, and please come on up." And and he said, "I need somebody to be escorted out of the building." And the general manager is looking at him like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Get back to the piano. We've got customers here. We need the music. You and I will have a conversation later. And he just sat there. He just stood there. And by the way, as I'm telling this story, I would love it if you guys would share the room, write something in the room chat, get to know each other, follow each other, entertain yourselves with posting this out on Clubhouse, sharing it, copying it, inviting people into the room. And the security guards came upstairs and he met them at the elevator. And she was still prancing around, super mad. And when the security people came, she said, "Would you make sure, escort him out of the building because, he needs to go home for the night because he's not over." And the gentleman, the piano player, looked at the two securities and said, "Would you," and he turned to the general manager and he said, "Would you escort this lady to her office, make sure she doesn't take any paperwork, doesn't get on the computer, that she grab her purse and her clothes, and please escort her. Make sure you get her magnetic card and her door key, and please escort her out the business." And she went ballistic. And she said, "Who do you think you are?" And he looked at her and he said, "Well, first off, I'm sick and tired of the way you treat people. And you just made the wrong mistake of treating me that way again for the last time. I'm having you removed. You're fired." And she's like, "Who do you think you are?" And he says, "Well, As of noon today, I became the owner of this restaurant. And I was waiting to see what Sujata is already clapping, and waiting to see how tonight would go. I had a feeling it would go this way. I had prepared the security staff, so that's why they knew who I was. And and you want to consider this a very valuable lesson, because you never know who you're treating poorly. And about a month and a half ago, my grandmother passed away, and I inherited a very, very, very comfortable sum of money that I will be able to live the rest of my life in a lot of comfort. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do is own a restaurant. And I couldn't think of a better one to own. And the price was right when I spoke to the owner. And you were the first thing I wanted to change. And I heard all this story because I had a couple friends that worked there, and the servers had all literally stopped working to watch, and customers were watching. I mean, this was a big deal. And as the security people walked around to the elevator, all of the servers gave a round of applause. Oh my goodness. And needless to say, the restaurant continued to thrive for, I think, another half a decade. And then he sold out of it and moved away from Minnesota. But in the interim, he really created a beautiful space. As you can imagine, somebody that plays a piano, watches, listens, learns, gets to know a lot of the people. And to me, that was, the worst experience of customer service and employee treatment that I've ever heard of. And it was also the best story. So I hope that some of you were like Sujata and were clapping your hands and enjoying that moment. Fabian's like, yeah, he's got exclamation marks going. And I'd love to just get tonight started with a round of sharing whatever, pick a topic, take 2, 3, 4 minutes and share your story, either a super bad one or a super good one, or a completely invented one that is a bucket dream. And with that, I'm going to do a quick pull to refresh to make sure everybody's in the right order. This is the 24-hour Bible study, the little green house right next to the word study at the top of the stage. If you click on that, if you're new here, and you click on that, and you can see the other rooms that are available throughout the course of the week. We would love for you to become a member of the 24-hour Bible study club. And as you can see, this is Against All Odds, the live podcast and videocast. I'm Coach Les, and two people over is Sujata, who is the author of the book Against All Odds, and she is in Singapore. So it is it's actually not super early. That was yesterday and Wednesday, 5 a.m. On Wednesdays and Thursdays. I force her to wake up and come and do the podcast. And today I allow her to sleep in. Go ahead, Sujata.
And I said, today you allow me to sleep a little longer.
So, all right. Well, so Sujata, I'm actually going to skip over Ruth and come back to Ruth. I'm going to have you, as my co-host, Sujata, share if you have an experience you'd like to share. If you, the mic's yours.
Yeah, so there are many experiences that I can share. I don't know which one to pick and choose. But in the restaurant, this thing I would say that, before making a complaint, for example, of course, if the server or somebody or the manager is rude and nasty, then one needs to point it out, escalate it to the higher ups. They could be having a bad day. I'm somebody who tries to be understanding to a point. But if I'm paying for service and you are going to, act in a different way, then I'm going to protest. So I'll first find explanations, and if I am still not satisfied, then I shall complain. Most often in restaurant business, I have found that it depends on the chef, the chef in the kitchen. They actually, I know how they work, I know how the system works, how the kitchen works, so I understand. But if you reach out to the chef and you can befriend him, you can expect some special considerations. I have a whole host of chefs who I've befriended, and they would always make something out of the menu for me. They knew that I was not supposed to eat certain things, so they would make it. And sometimes you have to make advance reservations. I would never go to the hotel or the restaurant, you know, booking this thing. I would just reach out, because if I made a friend with the chef, then I was on WhatsApp with the chef, and then I would just say that, can you fit me in on this date, even at short notice, and they would do that. So that's a thing that I think I would like to share on a positive note, that it works. And the other thing which in the food and restaurant thing which works is, before starting the meal or the service, I just conversationally let them know that I could write a review on TripAdvisor, and believe me that it works very well, because they would like that good review, right? You don't want bad reviews, so they're extra careful with you when they're knowing that, okay, I'm a regular TripAdvisor, or I write reviews on the food and all that. So that has always worked to my advantage. I think that's what I would call a smart strategy. And I yield my mic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sujata. Thank you for that. All right, so we are going to zip back to Ruth. Ruth, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you, although a bit tired.
Well, it is almost 4 in the morning.
I know, and the last thing I've got to do, I phone off, is take the dog for one last walk down the field.
And then you'll get to go to sleep?
And then I go to bed, and usually put some soothing music on, which within 5 minutes I'll be fast asleep.
That's 4.5 minutes longer than it takes me.
I don't get enough exercise sitting down working during the day. If I've been out in the garden, I'll fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow.
There you go. Yeah, that's me. Sometimes mine falls asleep before the pillow.
Yes, I fall asleep at the computer.
Yeah. My wife often, I kind of suddenly look and she's laughing, and I'm like, "Why are you laughing?" Because you're sleeping. I'm like, I'm sleeping. She goes, "Oh yeah." I'm like, I've got a spoon in my hand and I'm eating dessert. She goes, "I know."
Yeah, I'll do that with a coffee cup in my hand with disastrous consequences. Oh dear. But we were talking about restaurant service, weren't we, a few minutes ago?
Well, that is just the example that I chose to use. I mean, if you have a better example, the goal, the challenge tonight is for us to share extreme memories of customer service, either good or bad, or even opportunities for training and extreme opportunities for training and development, that you, like, if somebody handed you $1 million, you would build a restaurant, and this is the way you would train them, so that we can get an idea of maybe some things that we didn't know about how to train somebody. So we're opening up the floor tonight for really looking at some of the fun, extreme possibilities.
I mean, I think at the moment, the big problem with customer service is that there is no defined way of working, whether it's particularly in the large organizations. The staff don't really know what customer service is, particularly now you've got them working part-time from home, working on virtual systems, and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and there is also a lack of cohesion in the training and access to systems as well. So that's the post-pandemic part. It's the small businesses actually that throughout the pandemic, the good ones, have actually survived and are thriving. And some of the convenience store owners that I deal with as clients, their businesses have grown. And I've got one in particular, and he's up well over 50% on his turnover pre-pandemic. But that's down to it being a family-run business and that the staff all work together as a team.
I love it.
That's my experience. How you treat the people, how you train them, and the level of buy-in to the brand image of whatever organization it is. And that's something that the large organizations are failing to consider at this moment in time, big time. And that's my thoughts on this at the moment. I yield the mic.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate the candor, and I appreciate the solid input. And with that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Sister Jeanette.
Wow, you know, I always like the good shares, and Ruth had a lot that was kind of like I was throwing around. Customer service, you know, when you think about what should customer service be, yeah, it clearly has to be defined. It has to be taught. Many people don't even know how to answer the phone. They just answer, say, hey, what's up? And they don't even know who's on the other line. So, yes, and there's just people skills overall sometimes that you have to cover. And, you know, it's funny that you mentioned the restaurant business, because I worked in the restaurant business too. I worked in the industry. I don't know if you've heard of this restaurant called Benihana's. So I worked there, and I actually did the financials. They have 3 brands. They have the teppanyaki. They've got the sushi. Raw sushi is one of their brands, and also Haru, which are like a cuisine style Japanese restaurant. And so their customer service was excellent, you know, and they would, you know, they were, at the time that I was working for them, they were publicly held, and then they sold, and they went private, and then they went back. Now I think they're going back to publicly sold or publicly traded. And but anyway, while it was owned, you know, and founded by the original owner, we got to meet the founder, Rocky. And, you know, if any customer had a complaint, they would get a free dinner. They'd go to the manager, complain. The manager would assist them, give them the phone number for customer service. They'd call and talk about how the manager took care of the problem, and customer service, well, guess what? You get a free dinner on us. And we hope to hear that the experience is good. So they would do that continually. And also so they had that built-in customer service. And of course, even at the corporate level, when I worked with the restaurants or I did the financials, of course, I had to have good customer service because I did the financials. I had to communicate with the managers of the restaurants continually to make sure they knew what was going on with the numbers. Hey, your costs are up. What's going on? What are you doing? And helping them and getting to understand what they're doing and why are their costs going up, and build that communication with them so that I can help them, because a lot of times at a restaurant, they may be doing training and the managers don't know that shouldn't be part of their costs. So, when you educate them and say, well, if you had told me that, your reports wouldn't have looked out of sorts. So, you have to have that communication. That's part of customer service. But again, Coach, you mentioned the mission and the vision. We all knew what the mission and the vision of the restaurant chain was. And of course, we provided it. We were taught to provide that customer service to the managers. The managers passed it down to the customer, and it continually flowed together. It was really great experience working with them. The other thing to keep in mind in restaurant chains is that a lot of the managers are called their partners, and the more profits their restaurant makes, they get a percentage of that. So it's like a bonus every month for them. So they have that opportunity to build in that customer service, to build in the quality in the product that they are selling, in order to not only get their salary, but also get a bonus. And great managers always share those bonuses with the staff. And you can tell. I go to this one restaurant where I live. It's in Coral Springs, and everybody talk. Hey, if you compliment the food, they're talking. Well, the chef is really great. She wants good quality, and then you talk about the servers, and of course, they talk about how they're great. So they're always constantly know about each other, quality of the work that they have. So that's a great thing to see how everything flows. All that list of things that you said in the restaurant industry, when you see that they have the mission, the vision, they do the customer service, it trickles down and it trickles up. It's a great thing to witness. So there's an experience that I shared, and of course I'm seeing at this one restaurant, and I called it my there was never any line at this restaurant, and all of a sudden I have to stand in line now because it's really good. The service is good. The food has been really good. It's a great place to go just to have a sit down dinner and relax and spend time with friends. So customer service says it all. It trickles down to the customer all the way up. And I thought I'd share that experience because of that list that you shared. So thank you, Coach.
Oh, you're very welcome, Jeanette. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Sujata, did you want to share anything?
Oh.
All right. Well, we'll pass the mic over to Mana. Mr. Manahar.
Yes, good morning. Lovely topic. All I would want to say is one of the things that really decides your experience is how you treat children, because they happen to go all over the place creatively and checking out every nook and corner, because it's always good to have them around. And anyone who engages them or is able to engage them guarantees a great return, loyalty, and experience every time and time again. And when they grow up, they're going to want to come back. That's all from me as of now. Thank you very much for this lovely topic.
You're welcome. You are very welcome.
He said something that, you treat children, they grow up and then they want to come back. A lot of A lot of parents, they don't want their children to come back because usually when they come back, they bring their kids and they've got everybody living in one house. So I just wanted to comment on that. Treat your kids well, but make sure they can be independent. How's that?
I like it. Manahar, do you like it?
Yes, when everybody is looking out for customer loyalty, there's a second, third, fourth generation, and every time that is one aspect of customer service which I have seen being overlooked. So just wanted to bring that out. When you said that there are training opportunities, growth opportunities, that is one aspect which really makes sense. I'll talk about pets maybe later, but that's another area which is really overlooked.
And I'm stuck again. Hold on, I will be right back.
Next is Fabian, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they can't hear you.
They can't hear me?
Now they'll be able to in a second. I got stuck in the app, Sujata, when I was sharing.
Okay.
So I had to go out of the room and start over again. Hi, Fabian. The mic is yours. Fabian, are you there?
I am here, Coach.
Would you like to share?
I have two comments.
Would you like to share?
I wanted to ask you, Coach, so many times we confuse leadership. I call it borderline bullying times. And, I think leadership is part innate, but part of it is the openness to be compassionate and be a people person and realize that everybody's kind of on a different schedule because of our past experiences. So my question to you is, do you think that this lack of customer service is an overall poor job by trainers themselves getting trained?
Oh, yes, definitely. I think it's top down completely. And I think it's, owners and companies thinking they can get away with it. I think it's people being lazy. I think it's when people are hired, they're not told or informed that part of their job is to be trained, to go through server training. Such a concept, right? And I think due to that negligence, we deal with the customer service issues. Does that make sense, Fabian?
It does. And my question is, when do you think that changed and why?
Well, I'm going to take a wild stab and say something that might spark some interesting conversation. I don't think Sujata is smiling already. I don't think it can be blamed on the pandemic. I think it started before that. I think we have been living in such a affluent time prior to the pandemic and people could get away with it. The pandemic came. Oh, actually, right before the pandemic, there was starting to be an issue with, finding people to work. I think had started maybe a year before the pandemic, maybe a couple of years. And now we have the pandemic closed a lot of the places down. A lot of servers had to go find other jobs. They left the business. There were some hardcore servers that stuck around, the what I call career service professionals, and then a whole new influx at the lower feed. That's my short synopsis on it. What are your thoughts of that, Fabian?
Well, I think the bar is lowered and accepted it, John. I think when we walk in a restaurant now, but let me not say speak for myself only, but I'm actually surprised when I get customer service. And I'm shocked when I get great customer service. I was at a restaurant down there for Lauderdale, I'd say 4.5 stars as far as price, but as far as service, it was probably a 0.5 star. And I was out with a friend, and no lie, we waited on the food for 50 minutes. Okay, and one thing about me is I'm going to say something in a nice way, but I've been out with folks who just accepted, like, no, let's just wait another half an hour. And for me, I'm all about ambience, man. As I said, the food doesn't have to be the best meal ever, but I love me some ambience and the good vibes and a good conversation. But the food is 50 minutes late and it's still not here, we're going to have a problem, And the manager took that much long to come over and even identify that we had not gotten our food. And I just knew that I would not be back there anymore. I'm not one to make a scene, and who knows what they're doing to the food back there. Hearing that you made some noise about it. But I just think overall, Coach, that maybe the bar is so low now that managers and owners just kind of accept that. I'm not saying across the board, obviously, but I don't think it's the same height as, say, even 15 years ago. That's my experience.
That's very well said. We may not make a scene, but we can subscribe to standards of customer service. And if it is not there, then we should not go back there. We can have a choice of letting them know that we aren't coming back, or we can just not go back there. And we should not accept lower standards, because I have seen that if you accept it, it keeps going down and down. Because when you don't give the right feedback that you're not up to the mark, why would they improve?
My sentiment exactly, SUJATA.
We lost Rosemary. I thought she would be a beautiful addition to this conversation.
Yes, I think it's late for her, and I think it just it's late. And we had to listen closely to Fabian because he had that echo going on, so we couldn't hear his question. But we got into what the question was once the discussion happened. But it is past her bedtime, and that's probably what happened with Rosemary. Yes, she would have gave some good conversation.
So can we expect this downward spiral to continue, Coach, you think? Because, what is going to stop it?
Well, I think social media is going to stop it.
Can hardly hear you, Coach. I think.
Uh-oh. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Still kind of low.
Really? I don't know how to shift that. Hold on. Oh, I know why. I apologize. How's that, Fabian?
There we go.
Sorry, I had it on music instead of high. And I wasn't singing, so it didn't pick it up.
I think we could use some music right now anyway, so it wasn't too far off, Coach.
There we go. Exactly. Let's see. What do I have that I can play? Oh, look at this. I do have some. Wonder this is considered a best new song. Oh my goodness, it's way too mellow. My goodness. I've been keeping Jesus out of this. Okay, forget that. We got to go to this. Here we go.
And calling for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, 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 level up. All this on me so yummy, all this stuff so yummy. No, you want this yummy, yummy all in no tummy. Level up, 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 level up. All this on me so yummy, all this stuff so yummy. No, you want this yummy, yummy all in no tummy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, level up.
All right, there we go, Fabian.
That was pretty good, Coach.
I figured that was an appropriate level up, right?
We should play that for all the restaurant managers and owners, man. Just send that to every single restaurant on it. At least in the United States. Now, do we know if this trend is happening worldwide, other countries, or is it just my bad experiences down here in South Florida? I do not know.
No, it's in South Florida. I've been to California. It's there too.
It's everywhere. It's a. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Joey, what are your Joey's a restaurateur in the east and the northern. Joey, are you there?
Yes, it's everywhere in the States. It is not everywhere globally. So obviously this app is amazing, and as you talking to people from around the world in the restaurant rooms, we've discovered that it's not a global issue for the labor. And ironically enough, it was probably 6 to 8 months ago. We were experiencing, maybe even a year ago, I guess, about a year ago, last year, we were experiencing the trucking issue, and supply chain was down, and products weren't able to come out of China because the U.S. didn't have the cargo ships to send over there because they were stuck somewhere else, right? But I spoke to people in London and in Australia and parts of Europe, and they weren't experiencing some of those same issues. So it seems like it was somewhat isolated to some of the things happening here in the States.
And I can I can tell you in France, it was the French were leveling up. They were, because the government was shutting the restaurants down. The restaurants were bringing food to customers sitting in the street and sitting on the curb and sitting in the row and serving fine dining cuisine right out in the street. Basically telling the government to go stuff themselves.
The only thing I got a phone call from my family, so I had to grab it. My daughter who's in the food service industry, so she always calls me and gives me a recap of her night, which I told her I got out of the restaurant, so I didn't have to listen to it. But I kid with her. But so she was calling me, got to go. But the one thing that I've always said as far as restaurants, and of course we're seeing it now, Fabian, you've experienced it now, but we've experienced it before. But it seems like it's more now than ever. And I didn't catch the whole conversation, Coach. I heard a little bit, though, about it's from the top down. It is from the top down. And so the only comment I'll put on that is one that's going to agree with what you said. Someone that's from the restaurant industry that's been at the top, and I have a really high standard on how things should be done. Whenever I have a waitress or waiter, and there's something wrong with service, if I could, I'd grab the GM by the collar and give him what I thought about his lack of help. Because normally when I see service struggling in the restaurant, I don't see any support from their upper management. And that's disappointing, especially during the middle of a rush. A lot of times, but then you do see some of those. So it's not every scenario. It's not every restaurant. They call it a table touch. When you're at a restaurant and that guy comes over and you see him floating around the restaurant, obviously that's intentional. When you go to a restaurant and the GM doesn't come to your table, somewhere someone is not doing their job, and that's what we experience. And that's unfortunately right now we just have inadequate people running our service industry, whether it's restaurants, whether it's clothing, retail. There's a guy that I worked for. I actually pinged him, Coach, when I first got in the room because I wanted him to be part of this discussion. He probably was just leaving his restaurant, but Tony D. Silvestro or Tony D. would have been a great add to this conversation. He's a coach now and restaurant entrepreneur for restaurants and stuff like that, coach for restaurants. And he changed his whole format for dining room leadership and restaurant leadership. He's a pizzeria owner, and they used to call it managing from the pie bench, meaning that the main pie guy was the main manager. About 10 years ago, he moved to having a real true GM on the floor, touching tables. He calls it hugging babies and so on and so forth. And he has his most highest paid person in the restaurant now, just walking the floor, helping. And so he gets it. And that's why he's a coach trying to teach people. And the one thing he says, and this is Tony D. Silvestro, so it's not me, so I want to give credit to him. We're in the people business, man. And we got to remember that. We're in hospitality. We're in the people business. And we're not in the sales business. We're not in any business. At the end of the day, we're in the people business. And I think customer service has to remember that. So I'll yield. That's my 2 cents.
Well,
I think you guys got a quarter out of that one.
Yeah, we did. We got $1 out of that one. The other thing I was going to mention, Coach, is living in South Florida, we're tourists. We have tourists here all the time, and so you want to have that customer service. You want the tourists. You need that. So one of the venues that holds events, I used to work in Miami at the Adrian R. Center, and customer service was key. I mean, we get trained on how to teach, how to bring the guests in. They were guests, and the language to use. Everything was good. The training was good. You were constantly trained, briefed, debriefed. And of course, you kind of hope they carried that at the other venues. And what I noticed is after the I went to the FX Arena, where the Miami Heat plays, and it was horrible. And none of the leads directed the people to the correct seats. The valet people left early before the show started, so you couldn't even get to valet parking because they left. They just up and left. And I happen to be one of them. I got into the show 45 minutes after it started, between the traffic control, the valet left their post and actually closed the valet garage. I had to actually park myself in the valet parking, and then was misdirected to the wrong. It was just not a great experience. And having worked with house managers and other venues, speaking to the house manager, when I explained this to her, she goes, "What do you want me to do about it?" And this is, South Florida, it needs to have great customer service because of the tourists. There's a lot of tourists. It brings in revenue. You want them to go to your venues. You want to go to your restaurants. But the service is just horrible. When you speak to a house manager who's supposed to do quality control as well, and they tell you, "What do you want me to do about it?" Where do you go from there?
That's a very good question, actually, Janet, because the main things are always overlooked, and people have to have in their DNA a sense of being responsible to their profession. So don't get into something which you may not really resonate with, and no amount of training, then will help if you don't want to do that job and have taken that job for whatever reason. So it's difficult then for the training to get implemented.
Very much so. And I just want to welcome 2 new people to the room, Wade and Letitia, and Naki. Naki, it's been a long time. So great to see you. And thank you. I'm going to give just a little recap of what we're sharing about here. You probably already surmised a little bit. Wednesday, we talked about Wednesday in the podcast, we talked about customer service nightmares. Then yesterday we talked about customer service training. And today we're talking about customer service extremes. Extreme nightmares, things that have happened, extreme positive experiences, or even perhaps an idea to create a positive experience that may not be existed out there currently. So with that being said, Wade, I'm going to do ladies first. I don't know if Letitia's there, but I'm going to pass the mic to Naki, and then I'll come back to you, Brother Wade. Naki, the mic is yours.
I am here. Oh, thank you, Coach. I heard somebody, so I'd like for her to go, then I'll come after her. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Letitia.
I heard bits and pieces of what was being said, and I still work in customer service, and that is the most important aspect, is to make your customer feel welcome and feel a part of, not just, "Oh, you're just passing through, I don't care." It's making them feel that they are welcome, and you want them there with you, and you want them in your establishment, or you want them as a customer in whatever. I worked for a DME company for over 5 years. DME is durable medical equipment, and talking to the customers on the phone, we were told we had only a certain amount of time to talk to the customers, and we had to get them off the phone. And I looked at my supervisor one day and I said, who do we work for? Do we work for the customer or do we work for the company? The customers need their oxygen, they need their equipment as much as we need a job. Because without the customers, do we have a job? Is there a job out there if there's no customers? So I'm very, the customer comes first. That's the part that's always been, pointed out to me is making that customer feel wanted, making them feel comfortable, reassuring them. There's plenty of people that I talk to now through our business and through the catering that I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel a part of what's happening, not just telling them this is how we're going to do it and this is what's going to happen. And, I want their input and their input and their wants. Instead of just doing it my way. Because if I just do it my way, they're not going to come back to me, and it's going to put a negative vibe on everything. And then that's where I lose customers. That's where I lose people. So it's very important to have that one-on-one positive customer interaction. And with that, that's all I have, Coach. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Naki, the mic's coming to you.
Thank you, Coach Les. Greetings to you and to everyone in the room. Thank you so much for pinging me in. And I love the topic. I love customer service. I love, I'm always smiling. And I love making people feel good. I always have this at the back of my mind, that you do to others as you would others do unto you. But I know most cases it's not the same. It's not like that in most cases. But that is I live by the golden rule, So I really love helping people, and my kind of customers is different. I work with youth. It's a government-funded program to help these youth who maybe, they made some bad choices. This program gives them a second chance to, correct the bad choices they made in the past and give them an opportunity to, shine. So this program offers different trades, and it's a 2 year, sometimes 1 year, a year and a half program that gets them back into the working world, and they're able to earn, some income and make life for themselves. So this is the environment I work with, and Coach Les, I'll be honest, I love working with them. I love working with them. Sometimes they think they know much, but I understand, sometimes we act ignorantly, but nevertheless, I love working with, I love giving them what I have to offer, and I do that to them because I have a son. And I always say, I'm not always with my son, so I'll treat somebody's child the way I want my child to be treated. So I give them the best customer service that I have, whatever I have learned, I'm always ready to give it to them. I'm always looking for problems to solve, always looking to offer some solutions, and I'm telling you what makes me know that I'm doing a good job is sometimes they come and they don't see me as bubbly as maybe they see me on a regular basis, and they go out of their way. Miss, are you okay? I says, I remember there's this one particular instance. Somebody really made me so mad, coach, in the morning, and I tried to mask it, right? So I saw this particular student. He came in, and I'm like, oh, hello, how are you, and all that. And even he could tell from the way I said hello that I was not happy. And I was like, oh, no, I'm fine. And he said, no, miss, I know you. You're not happy. So that tells me, I'm doing something good. For them to really read me at that particular time, I was not happy, but I was trying to mask, and it makes me very happy that I'm really, really doing something good. So, yeah, that's a little story about what I do. I really love making people feel good, especially the youth I work with. I really love working with them. So, yeah, I'm here to learn. Coach, when you call, I'm running. So whatever help, whatever tips, I'm here to learn. So thank you for pinging me in once again, and I yield the mic. Thank you.
You are very welcome, and thank you for answering the ping. That's the, that's what it takes, and I appreciate it, and I look at this game of customer service, and I'm sad that Fabian had to leave, because I think he would have enjoyed what you had to say, Naki, and one of the keys for me today in any business, I don't care if it doesn't have to be just the restaurant business. I think today, to train people how to ask what I call open-ended questions, to have clientele say more than one sentence or one word in response to a question, to be able to use questions that when you ask them that you can't answer with a yes or a no. And I think that's one of the biggest opportunities is for us to get creative in our training and development sessions. And by the way, like I said, this has nothing to do with exclusively restaurant. This has to do with in an IT company, in a corporation, in a trucking company, in a anywhere, to develop people's common sense. And I think that that is a very, it's not an easy project at all. And I realize that. But I also think that if we can create an experience for people to understand the value of good customer service versus poor customer service, let them see, experience, I'm excited. I think this is, we live in a time right now where we have a huge opportunity to jump on the customer service bandwagon and create an opportunity where people are so wowed by their experience that they become clients for life. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, anybody's thoughts on what I just shared, because it's not an easy task, and I know that.
Yes, Coach. Good morning again.
Good evening, good morning, good day.
Good day. So one of the things is, especially when you're having, let's say, a beer, and you call the person who's serving you and say, hey, listen, there's a fly in my beer.
Is he doing the
Your
backstroke?
expectations-
Manohar.
Yeah, am I audible?
No, yeah, Manohar, is the fly doing the backstroke or swimming?
Yeah, just imagine you call up this person and say there's a fly in my beer. So what are you expecting? Your expectations are with yourself. Now imagine the server telling you, that's okay, sir. How much beer will he drink anyway? So you really don't know what to say. Like the valet who actually said, if you want me to be the valet, show me your wallet. So these are smart quips which really don't go around with customers. And one hotel which I really have been forever staying, I don't know whether you know this. It's called Hotel California.
It's such a lovely place.
It's such a lovely place. And that's what customer loyalty is all about. You can check out any time you want, but you can never leave. Let's make customer service that way. And that definitely requires training, upgradation, always, all the time. I rest my mic.
I was thinking of, now I read this on Twitter, so take it for what it's worth, but a person was complaining about the customer service from Delta because them and their husband had access to a certain lounge due to credit cards they held, but Delta wanted to charge their 4-year-old child a fee. And the moment I thought, what kind of customer service? I mean, if I would have been in charge of that section or whatever, I'd been sure, come right in. Because there's part of the problem. And I can't remember the name of the company, but there were several examples of this where there was a certain amount that an employee would be able to solve a problem up to like $50 or something for a really big hotel. And another example I thought of was on our trip, one of the places I was at was the Santa Fe station in Dodge City, Kansas. And one of the reasons that station, and it's important, I actually had done a podcast because the person that was in charge of the building talked about Fred Harvey, who was big into hospitality. And it's a good listen just for the fact that one of the things he talked about was the whole experience. Like he didn't even want the railroad workers to interact with the hotel guests. And one of the things he did was a lot of these girls that he was training couldn't speak English well, or maybe had a heavy accent. And the hostess, when they would set the saucers and cups out, would arrange it in such a way that the wait staff would know what beverage they were drinking, so that the girl wouldn't become embarrassed, and neither would the the person become irate with her for having this heavy accent. Just some thoughts about it, but I think we really, unfortunately, from the top down, is disconnected. And as my beautiful bride was talking about, without the customer, we don't have a job nor a business. Even in sales, they talked about this. Really, sales means service. And that's what it's all about. We're there for the customer, not the customer's there for us. And I'm going to land with that. Back to you, Coach.
Thanks, Brother Wade. Jeremy, what do you think about my idea? I mean, Joey, I'm sorry. Here I was thinking about Jeremy Franklin, and his name popped into my head. Joey, what do you think about my idea?
I'm going to have to yield the mic back to you, Coach. I was only half listening. I've got some other stuff going on here at the house and just kind of half listening.
Okay. No worries. Sister Jeanette.
What was your idea, Coach? You're going in and out here for me. What was your great idea?
Oh, I'm going in and out?
Well, for me, you are.
Okay. Joey gives me a face.
I see that face.
Thanks, Joey. Well, for me, the thought is that we are creating a training and development program that actually has people start to understand what it is that we're creating, what it is, what's our accomplishment here? What is it that we want to accomplish in our service to this client? What is a way so that we stop telling the servers, telling the salespeople, telling the customer service people how to do it. Rather, we ask them, how would you want this to be done? That's my push.
Well, that's part of customer service training. Because, in any type of training, you want them to have at least a certain perspective of cause and effect, and getting their input of what does it look like. That's important for that process. Cause and effect. If you want to remedy something, you need to know what caused it, and present effective remedy. So I think asking them, that's great for customer. It should always be part of customer training. Always asking them what they think. And when you look at the companies, when they brief and debrief after anything, that's what they're asking them. What went well? What didn't go well? What would you have done? And then let's do it next time. And then after you do it the next time, go back and say, okay, we did it. How did it go? How did it work? It's simple, right? It sounds so simple.
It is. I don't think I'm reinventing a wheel by any means. I think what I'm doing is repairing a spoke that doesn't get used.
No, it's broken. It's broken. The spoke is broken. Absolutely. Because, we talked about it the other day. We brought it up. Do we have the right people there to oversee all of this operation anomaly, right? And we probably don't. If you have to go in and teach them this and say, hey, this is this is what we're going to need to do, you're pretty much saying you probably have the wrong people in those positions, and training needs to happen, and you need to bring in everybody and ask them how they would do it. Give them back some ownership to it. So yes, absolutely. We brought it up, but we didn't discuss a whole lot about it. Are the right people in place to do this kind of analysis of where is the customer service and what can we do better? Probably not being asked because they probably don't care. I don't know. But I think your question is valid. Your question is valid. Is this a good idea? Absolutely. Go in there, coach. Go in there and say, this is what you're doing wrong. Give them a DISC test, and you'll probably find that the people are in the wrong job, in the wrong positions. There you go.
Yeah, I think if you were to do that too on a regular basis, like judge people's who they are, what position they have, how are they getting along in it, and start to say, look, our goal isn't to fire you. Our goal is to find you a home that thrills you to work every single day.
Well, here's the next question that popped in my mind. You know, given what they call the Great Resignation, right? Are people really loving their job, or are they working there just because they have to?
Yeah.
And of course, there you go back to give them the DISC test. Are they in the right job? Are they in the right position? It goes back to that if they're not happy. You know, but then again, pre-pandemic, there's opportunities to go and find jobs where you want to be. Post-pandemic, maybe not so much, or maybe yes. It just, maybe the leadership isn't there. Goes right back to it. The leaders, are they there? Are they in place? Maybe not. I mean, given what I'm seeing, there's no people skills in the positions that are supposed to have leadership roles. There's no people skills coach. So teach customer service and maybe some people skills.
I think
that's the opportunity.
Oh, I think so. I think the people skills, yesterday we talked about common sense. I think it's missing. I think common sense, for me as a server and a bartender, I wouldn't feed my child Coca-Cola, cherry Coca-Cola, made by the bartender's maraschino cherry juice. I think that offering that little extra touch opens up so many doors today. And I rest my mic.
So many opportunities, coach. I mean, I'm hearing.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The question I have is, how is the employee themselves being treated? So are we assuming this is an employer that's paying at fair market value for the employee? They have a good work environment where they're treated with respect, dignity. As Letitia said, they're given the proper time to actually accomplish the job and not forced to hurry up and get this person off the phone. I'm hoping that that's the environment we're talking about, because if not, then if I'm the employer and I'm treating you like crap, how can I hope that you're going to treat my customers well?
Well, that's exactly it, Wade. The culture in the job is atrocious. It may be the owner, it may come from the owner, it may come from who the owner hired in those roles that are supposed to be leadership roles. It's the culture, and it trickles down. You know, when you have a good culture, you could see it. You could see the good customer service trickle down and trickle up. When you have a bad culture, you see all these breaks in communication. You see the breaks in attitude, morale, and people just don't care how they come or how they become present in their job. They don't care. And that's what I'm seeing. And I see people in roles that are supposed to be leadership roles that are just micromanaging bullies, and they get away with it. There are many opportunities to be addressed, you know, in any company, any workplace there, and it just got worse after the pandemic. So that's my piece on that. Thank you.
I think the key words are that they don't care, Janet, as you rightly pointed out. Because if the top management don't care, then what do you expect the others to do? Because they always cannot take initiatives outside what they're trained to do or allowed to do.
Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, I was gonna, I'm agreeing with you and adding to that. I've seen, you know, different kind of slogans or sayings on LinkedIn. You know, it's a great place to find, if you want to continue this conversation and kind of get plugged in. LinkedIn, you know, it is a really good spot to kind of plant yourself and sit and watch what some of the leaders are saying, the ones that get it right. But one of the things that I've seen on LinkedIn, and I feel that this is so accurate, is that when you're in leadership and you've got leadership, you've got your staff, and you have the customer, the upper tier, I'm just repeating really what's already been said, but the upper tier really needs to pour into the tier that's pouring into the customer. It's a non-negotiable. It has to happen. Like if you have a service floor and you're a GM, you're an owner, or you're a CEO, and you have a service floor, and that service floor is going to be the one that's going to be touching the people walking through the door and giving them the service. To Wade's question or Wade's comments, how are we treating it? And for Jeanette, the culture, you can't have a dysfunctional family / restaurant / team and expect them to give the customer walking through the door the experience that they deserve. It's impossible. So great buzzword, culture. It's the word that's kind of been, but it's a great thing. And I could share with my company. We actually coach.
Yes.
This is so I was paying attention now that and I can't answer. So my company actually has a culture team that is made up of about 12 different people in the sales force, and I think there's 4 people from the associates. I think there's 4 people from the C-suites, and there's 4 people from our marketing, and there's like 12 of them, and they meet, and they give us surveys like 3 or 4 a year, and they're continuous. They're constantly working out the heartbeat, the culture, the feedback. I mean, we're always answering surveys from SurveyMonkey about what's going on, what's happening, how do you feel your RDMs treating you, how do you feel as an association we're doing this. And so yes, you're not reinventing the wheel, Coach. I think it's a great concept.
Thank you.
And I've already said I have the greatest job with the greatest company. So, I mean, that's why they're doing it. But they're doing it. They're doing it right. And we just need to really learn from the ones that are doing it right. And I'll say one more thing. and I said it before, the reason why we have inadequate customer service is because we have inadequate leadership.
Well, I think that the other thing about inadequate leadership that I see as an issue is this I think it's an epidemic of entitlement, and I'm not going to blame it on the millennials. I'm going to blame it on people in general. We live in this world today, and I think a great example is The View, and I'm super excited to hear what people have to say about this. We live in a world today where a lot of Americans, when they go to France, have a story, have an experience that the French don't like them, that the French aren't very friendly, that they're not very polite. And, I lived there for 3 years. And one of the conversations that existed was that Americans felt that money would buy anything. And that they could walk up and go, I want to buy this. How much is it going to cost? And a Frenchman, and this is a story I've heard, a Frenchman looked at this American and say, you don't have enough money to buy this. And the American said, I don't think you know who I am and how much money I have, because I have plenty of money. And the Frenchman looked back at the American and said, I don't think you understand. You don't have enough money, because no matter how much money you had, I wouldn't sell this. It's not something that has a price tag. Well, but and the comeback was, well, everything has a price. We hear about it all the time. Everything has a price. Just keep bringing enough money in. You can buy anything. And the Frenchman said, money can't buy love. It can only buy some of the experiences that are that might be construed as part of a loving relationship, but it can't buy love. Money cannot buy history and inheritance. So no matter how much money you have, no matter how much that you want to pay for this table or this chair, it's not for sale. Oh, well, but let me raise my price to you. I don't think you understand, Mr. American. And to hear that from that story, I immediately could think of a half a dozen Frenchmen that I knew from my, from my time as an adult, visiting France again, being around French people. I could think of a half a dozen people that would stand toe to toe with an American that was that way. Now, I came to America and I met normal people, and I've been here. I became a citizen. I love America. And there are still some people in parts of Texas, parts of New York, where money doesn't buy everything, even in the US. Anybody want to jump in? Come on. I couldn't have killed the conversation that bad. Manahar.
On the other hand, there are things that money can't buy, and the experience is wonderful. For example, just imagine your delight when you go to a restaurant and you say, "Hey, can I get this?" And one particular server says, "Sorry, sir, it's not on the menu." And the other one just jumps at the opportunity and says, "We'll be glad to, if you can tell the chef exactly how you want it to prepare." That's customization. I've had so many experiences of that it's always a delight to take your friends there. You know what? I enjoyed this particular thing. And they look at the menu and say, "It's not there." "Oh, this is my favorite place. That's why." And the moment you hear that, that's legendary. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Wade.
Another thing is getting to know your people. I know you've heard this story, Coach Les. That Zig Ziglar told about they were doing training, and it was a young man that would do really great work, and they really wanted to promote him, but just every once in a while he wouldn't show up for work for a week. Then he'd show back up and do okay, back and forth and back and forth. And Tom Ziegler said they asked him, "Do you know what his dream is?" So they went and found his dream, and here he didn't even know how to have a bank account or any of those things. And what his dream was to own a motorcycle. And once they found out what his dream was, and they explained to him if he showed up to work and they would give him a bonus and these things, then things worked out. And my own personal experience with that is I had one dispatcher when I was driving truck, and I really liked working for her because she knew, like, I really, really wanted to have the first day of buck season off. It's a big deal here in Pennsylvania, the first day of deer season. And she knew another gentleman that could care less about hunting, and he'd rather have his birthday off. And I always worked on his birthday, and he always worked on hunting season. And we were accommodated, and we felt cared for, and we knew we could rely on her to do the best you can. I mean, there's always emergency situations and things come up. But we knew all we had to do was ask, and she'd get to know us and ask us just small questions about how her family was and things like that in the conversation of being dispatched for the load. So a lot of the problem we have with employers is they don't understand, get to know your folks and how to accommodate them. It might be a small request that would make it a dream job for them.
Yep.
I really love what Monahar, I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied, but it's the same kind of thing as the customer going to that restaurant. You know, "Oh, we'll try this. We'll accommodate." And I think that's where big business has really lost their touch. Especially, I believe what Joey said. You know, Jeanette said it, and you said it. They don't have the right people in place that are taking care of the people. They're just micromanagers. So, back to you, Coach.
Thanks, Wade. Naki, anything about money can't buy anything for you?
I know money answereth all things according to the Bible. But yes, I agree with you. Money doesn't buy everything, So, yeah, I'm listening in for now, Coach. Thank you. I'm really enjoying the conversation. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Sujata, you want to chime in?
I think you nailed it when you talked about money can't buy anything. And at the end of the day, it's all about experiences. And experiences are what is retained by the customer, how you make them feel. So even if there are shortcomings, but if you can give them an experience that they can go away with happily, they can forget some of the shortfallings or shortcomings.
Thanks, Sujata. Jeanette, anything else for you?
No, Coach, nothing else from me.
Awesome. All right. Well, I just want to do a quick shout out for anybody in the stage. Anybody in the audience, if they want to come up and just share about their customer service experience. Go ahead, Joey.
Two things. One, and I'm not sure if this is the end of the customer service conversation for as a Friday night, if this is the bookend. But one of the things that I didn't hear the other day, and being here today now, it may have been mentioned, but how has technology helped or hurt the hospitality industry? And that's not we need to discuss now, but there's a whole lot of thoughts and that we can discuss at some point, but it's helped it and hurt it, right? So there's that. And then just real quick, I didn't get a chance the other day to share my my customer nightmare as a manager, right? And then also as a customer too. And I know I'm going to sound like if the music's too loud, you're too old, kind of a grumpy old person. But it is a huge pet peeve of mine when I was a manager. Phones in general, but we've dealt with phones. And that's also a skill, real quick, of being a good manager. We may not be able to fix what we perceive as the problem because it's going to just steamroll us and happen around us. So we have to be really creative and work with the problem, and sometimes sometimes try to outsmart the issues, right? But one of my huge pet peeves, Coach, when it comes to customer services, is being on your phone. And I'm talking restaurants now. Host stand, hostess stand, counter person.